and I'm thinking I'm going to let so many people down. And all of a sudden, all those things, imposter syndrome, you're a fraud, like you're not as tough as you think you are. What were you thinking? So I am giving it everything I've got until they yanked me off the course, because I can't fail at this one, not this one, not this time.
If you've ever felt stuck, like you're too late, too tired, or just too busy to go after something big, this episode is going to light a fire under you. Because my guest today, Rhandi Orme, has built her entire life on one mantra: dream really freaking big. Rhandi is a wife, a mom of 5, and a run coach with over 20 years of experience. She's a marathoner, an ultra runner, an Ironman finisher, a certified personal trainer, a certified run coach, and a sports nutrition specialist. But here's what makes her story powerful. She's also been sidelined. She's battled health issues that have stopped her mid-race. She's faced injuries that have forced her to drop out just weeks before the big day. And every single time, she's found a way to rebuild, reframe, and rediscover the joy. Today, she's sharing the kind of no BS advice that she'd give you if she were your coach. The truth bombs that she drops on Instagram that stop you mid-scroll and make you go, I needed that. Even if you're not a runner, this one's for you, because what Rhandi shares goes way beyond training plans and finish lines. These are lessons in resilience, mindset, and what happens when you finally prioritize what lights you up. So buckle up, because this episode is packed with motivation, perspective, and the reminder that it's never too late to dream really freaking big. Welcome, Rhandi. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you on the podcast and just to see a familiar face that I love that I haven't seen in a long time.
It's been way too long. When's the last time we saw each other?
I was thinking about this, and I believe it was our girls' trip to Gulf Shores.
Yeah, because you had already left. Right?
Yeah, I had already moved. I had been gone for a year or two. We all met up at Janelle's beach house and that was a really, really fun girls' trip.
It was wonderful. Yeah, to rewind, we were both living in the same town in Indiana. You were there. Your husband's job is what took you there.
Yes.
And so you had been living there for 6 years. Okay. And then I had returned there because that was my hometown. I moved back, I guess, midway through that 6 years. I had known who you were before because you were one of my sister Sarah's best friends. And so, I'd heard of Rhandi and I'd met you here and there, but then living in the same place and getting to know you and starting my own friendship with you was wonderful.
Yeah, likewise. And I think that's funny because I knew you because of Sarah too. And I'm best friends with my sister. And so anybody that has a really close relationship with their one sister is a vibe to me because that's my vibe. So it was wonderful to meet you and then develop our own friendship.
Yes. And yeah, you get the sister vibe and the sister speak and the sister brain. So if you don't have a sister, I'm sorry. Or if you don't have a sister you're close with. But when you're close with it and you vibe, it's so wonderful. So I always knew that I wanted to talk to you because I feel like you have such a fascinating story and just your life is really, really interesting to me because you're somebody who is doing big things. I mean, it's been no secret that it's you like to do these big things, these cool things, not just running, but living your life. I feel like you have an amazing outlook. And so when you posted on your Instagram, it's a pinned post. So if anybody wants to look and see it, they'll be able to see it's, as a run coach of 20 years, these are the things I would tell my athletes if I wasn't afraid of hurting their feelings. But what I loved about it is as I was reading it, I was thinking oh yeah, I could see all the things in my life as a non-runner. I only run when I'm being chased at this point. And I thought, okay, these really are amazing truths that can be adapted to anybody. So I wanted to kind of talk about those and talk about some of your experiences. So the first thing you say is more miles is not a fix-all. So running, you can adapt this to anybody. Running more does not fix poor recovery, poor sleep, or poor nutrition. You're just adding more and more onto this broken foundation. This is a metaphor for midlife. When we try to solve burnout by doing more sometimes. How have you seen that show up in your own life?
So one of the things I love most about running, just to kind of back up what you started with, because this message is for everyone. You don't need to be a runner, like running, relate to running, to relate to a lot of the life lessons and messages that running brings, right? And that's the point of this. And so that whole message of if your foundation is faulty, if your foundation is broken, you continuing to do more to reach your goals, kind of in desperation, doing what you think is going to help you get there, oftentimes has diminishing returns. Oftentimes, we're accidentally creating chaos and creating a situation that we can't maintain. Something I like to look at with my athletes when they're new, or they've got a new big goal, or they're going after something that's going to take a lot of work and a lot of commitment, is that we use the pyramid, right? And for those, I'm using my hands, I'm a hand talker. For those just listening, just imagine a pyramid. And the bigger and the wider the base, those foundational things that make you a good human, AKA make you a good runner, the stronger and more hardy that base is as the pyramid starts to go up and you add things like more miles, or you add things to your goals, like how am I going to like fine tune this goal that I'm working on, whether it's for my children, my marriage, my job, whatever it is. The hardier and the stronger your foundation, the more the things that kind of might look sexy, that might look fancy, that you think you need to reach these goals, the more those are going to hold up because they have a strong base underneath them. When that base is faulty, or that base is weak, or that base has holes in it, everything has an increased risk of like falling apart, and then you're starting back from square one.
For sure. I can see definitely times where I've tried to almost like not cheat my way to the finish line, but like not build the healthy foundation, right? Where it's like, okay, I need to get to this point and feel like I don't have time to build this. So it's like, oh, we're going to kind of like, jerry rig ourselves. And then the outcome is never what I want it to be. There's so much stress. There's so much frustration and disappointment in myself when it's like, why can't I do this? But it's like intellectually, like, oh, it's probably because I really rushed through things, or I didn't do things really the best way. Right.
Right. We can't cheat the system. And I think that's another one of my points is me, Rhandi, you, Chrissy, anybody, we are no different than anybody else. We're not the exception. Like, you're not exceptional. Like, we are all, as human beings, we can't cheat the system. Like, you're not the exception to the rule. You aren't going to be the one that got to get away with putting in the hard work to get to those goals. Like, that you can't cheat the system. We're selling ourselves short because the process where we learn to become a better human, a better runner, is in building the foundation, is in not skipping the steps. Those oftentimes are where we learn the most lessons, where we experience the most joy. And so we're robbing ourselves of that experience if we don't take time to sit in each step.
But why is it so hard? I mean, what is it that people have their eyes fixed on? I mean, for me, I know it's like my Achilles heel is I always try to put too much and not enough time. I underestimate how much time whatever project or, goal I have is going to take. And so it's like I try to crunch more in, and then I'm rushed, and then I'm stressed, and then I'm just like, ah. But I mean, that's for me. But for you, I mean, what have you observed kind of in your life?
This is something I'm continually working on, but there's this saying, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. Oftentimes we're rushed because we do put too much on our plates. And sometimes we do have to take a step back and evaluate. I can do any of these goals, but I cannot do all of them at once. So what right now do I want to focus on? If I can't build that strong foundation, if someone wants to run a marathon and they don't have time to build their base fitness because they've got other things on their plate that are taking more priority, that's okay. But there does come a point where we have to recognize what's going to give right now, because right now I have too much on my plate. So I'm getting a B or a C in everything because I have got too much going on. Right. And so that's where we have to have the wisdom, the courage, kind of swallow the ego and say, what can I remove right now so that I can have more success in the things that are most important to me right now? And sometimes that's not going to be running for me. Even as a coach, I have a professional job. There's seasons where I'm like, you know what? These other priorities are taking more time and attention right now. And that's okay. Right. So recognizing that there is a time and a season for different goals.
Which I love hearing that, but it's hard because sometimes I want to go 100% in everything. I want to be the super mom. I want to be the super wife. I want to be able to really devote a lot to this podcast, that it's like, okay, I'm wanting to grow this. And that takes a lot of time. And it's hard when you realize that some aspect of your life, you have to kind of let up a little bit. I feel like realizing that, and telling myself, oh, I'm not failing or I'm not doing it wrong. It's just there's only so much bandwidth, that we're able to have.
Yeah, our bandwidth is limited, and heartbreak isn't failure, it's feedback. It's the feedback that's not working. And so we take and we adjust. And I think when something does have to be removed, I always start with what absolutely can't be removed. What are my non-negotiables? Me being a full-time present, best mom I can be, that's the non-negotiable. That one's never going anywhere, right? Like that one's always going to be at the tip top of my priority list, right? But there's certain things that are negotiables. Okay, I'm not going to race this season. I'm just going to coach. Okay, I'm going to take less athletes this season. That's going to decrease my financial return. But right now, what's more valuable is A, B, and C. So I think always start with what your non-negotiables are, like what's always going to have to be a priority, and then decide in that season what you want to be the priority.
Well, and also, like you're saying in that season, right now, you and I, our family life, our home life, they require a lot of our time and attention, just as they should. But guess what? In 10 years, all of my babies will be out of the house, which is horrifying. But at the same time, that's when my life will restructure in a way where I'm spending, a greater portion of my time on X, Y, or Z. And it's kind of hard in the moment sometimes to be like, oh, this is, there will be a time in a season for whatever, but also realizing what life looks like now is not what life is going to look like even in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. And so it's like the balance is not set in stone forever.
Absolutely. The balance is never set in stone. And I think kind of where we have to be careful as moms in that mindset of, oh, someday I'll have more time is, yes, it will change, but there'll always be other important things that come up. And I do think it is super important for our children to see us dream big because it's fulfilling something for me, but what are we showing them? Because I want my kids someday to dream really freaking big. Like, I hope they know that that's possible, that they don't ever have to lose themselves so much that when they get older, they have to refine themselves again. And I do think we have to find ourselves over and over again in life, but we also want to show them that they can be courageous, that they can believe in themselves, and that they can dream big. And we can tell them that, and that's a great thing to tell them, but it's a really great thing to show them as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And I feel like you have done such an amazing job of showing them something very, very specific. I mean, the way that you train and being an elite athlete, I mean, it's like that's not something that just happens. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of passion. And so I really, really feel like you showing your kids that yes, there is something that belongs to you, and also, something that you're prioritizing. Your life is not just sitting in the kitchen waiting for them to come home every day. Like, your life only exists when they're home, right? Like, I love that you have something and that they've seen that journey with you. Like you said, like you're teaching them these lessons. I mean, I'm thinking of your daughter, I'm thinking of my daughter, seeing that you can be mom and you can be wife, and you are also Rhandi, and Rhandi has her own passions, and Rhandi has her own goals and her own dreams. You don't have to have those be on the sideline because you are also mom and wife, right?
Yeah, they can coexist.
Has there ever been a time where you've had to feel like you have to explain yourself to other people, or has it been mostly support, or has there been some people that really need to expand their vision?
So I'll start off with saying 95% positive. I think that because I project myself in a positive way, the positivity certainly comes back around. But I don't think that you can ever avoid critics. I don't think you can ever avoid the negativity. And certainly I know because of little snide comments here and there, and people asking questions that may come across offensive or rude, or maybe like my favorite that I'll never forget. Actually, this happened in Indiana. Someone said, wow, I wish I could train for a marathon. And I know the exact person and I'll never repeat it. And they had just done a half marathon and we were chatting at the park, mom's play group. And she said, but I could never do that to my family. I could choose to be so insulted. So a few things like that over the years, I'm like, oh, there are really people out there that think that I am being less of a mother because I'm choosing to pursue a goal, and that couldn't be further from the truth. When you are intentional with your time, often those relationships increase. Often you are able to be more present in the moment, and you create time for your children. And they don't see the sacrifice. They didn't see the 4 a.m. alarm clock so that I could ride my bike for 3 hours before my children went up. They didn't see that I chose to skip watching Netflix, which, dude, I love TV. I love a good reality show. I mean, I was watching Love is Blind last night while I was doing the dishes, and while I rode my spin bike. So it's not that I don't love all of those things just like everybody else. So I'm not temporarily replacing time with my kids so I can train. I'm giving up other things. And I don't know if people who've never done that can't wrap their brain around that. But yeah, that's insulting, super insulting. And also, I have an amazing other half who is my better half, my husband, Graham, who supports me and I support him. And I also think that I have to remember that like not everybody has that. And so they're not able to maybe wrap their brains around what that looks like. I did get one comment in the last year from a family member. This one like really reminded me of what other people are thinking and kind of those toxic thought patterns. I had just hosted a trip to Ecuador. I hosted a girls run trip to the Galapagos Islands. And remember, I'm not doing this. Oh, it was incredible. Everyone told me I'm going to do it again, all levels. But I think that some people think I'm out gallivanting around. I'm like, no, all of that money that I made on that trip paid for my daughter's competition dance fees. And the time before that, it went into one of my kids' college funds. I'm not out there gallivanting. Like, it's literally my job. This is providing for my family. This is a work trip. This is a work trip. Thank you, Chrissy. And a well-meaning family member was asking about the trip, and Graham, my husband, was right next to me. And they said, and Graham just like watched your kids while you were gone, you know? And I'm thinking, he works. I watch, quote, his kids all day. I work too. I am a secondary provider, the full-time homemaker. He is the primary provider and tries to be, you know, we're both trying to do two things full-time, but that's not how it works. But of course, I'm going to get some backhanded comments. Of course, I'm going to get, oh, I could never do that to my family. And it used to sting. And now I've realized when I receive those comments, it's not about me. It's about
them.
It's not about me, and it's not about you. So if you're scared of what other people are going to think, yeah, other people are going to think, and other people are going to judge you. So you have to decide that you know your heart, you know your worth, you know what kind of parent you are, what kind of human you are. Sometimes I have to put my ego in check and say, and also, this is a big one, not everybody needs to get us. Not everybody needs to understand us, and that is okay.
Not everybody's going to get it, and it's fine. I mean, for me, the idea of, say, running 100 miles, I don't need to want to run 100 miles to realize that is an amazing goal, an amazing accomplishment. And just like you don't have to have your own podcast or do exactly what I do to get that. It's like, that is cool. That is bringing you joy, and that is bringing you fulfillment. Just because somebody's joy looks like this and yours looks like that doesn't mean it's any less valid.
Absolutely. Well said.
There's a reel on Instagram that went viral, and it's this guy, I think his name's Rob, I can't remember his last name, but he has the gift of making everything hilarious. And one thing he does is he is talking about this book from the Berestein Bears. It's called like The Berenstain Bears and Mama's New Job, right?
My favorite Berenstein Bears is the one where Mama Bear is just sick of everyone Papa Bear makes and sells furniture, while Mama Bear is a stay-at-home mom and waters the garden. Late at night, when everyone's asleep, she comes downstairs and does her favorite thing, making quilts. Her designs are original and exciting, okay? She is telling a story with the fabric. None of that boring shit. But she doesn't have time to make quilts because her family is annoying her. They're like, help us do this, help us do that. And she's like, oh my God. So Mama Bear disassociates and she's just dreaming about quilts. Papa Bear is having a furniture sale in their front lawn and Mama Bear is being sneaky. She's like, oh, I'll just hang these beautiful quilts up. And everyone's like, girl, these quilts, you made these? And she's like, yeah, it's just a hobby. What can I say? And they're like, Mama Bear, you need to be in business. And she's like, Are you hearing this, everybody? Papa Bear is not liking this. He shuts it down. He's like, Mama Bear is not doing business, okay? I'm the one who works around here. She waters the garden. Now, in case you didn't know, Mama Bear is 27 years old. Life hit her hard, okay? Papa Bear is 39, and Brother Bear is 10 years old. So when Mama Bear had her first baby, she was 17 and he was 29. Now, I don't know what the rules are in bear country, but as far as I'm concerned, he impregnated a minor. So now Mama Bear's going through it. She's like, what the hell did I do with my life? The next day, Mama Bear's like, you know what? I might have been a child bride, but I am not a victim. She's like, I'm starting a quilt business down the street, all right? Her family is not happy. They're like, who's going to do all this shit around the house? And she's like, I don't know. Figure it out, losers. Her store opens and it is a hit. Mama Bear is a savvy businesswoman, okay? She's dropping capsule collections and collabs with Supreme. That night they go out to dinner and Mama Bear pays. And Papa Bear's like, wait, free food? Now he's a feminist.
It is so funny. I know. I think that it's a bit of a shock when people don't like to take seriously someone who's an influencer, someone who's turned their passion into a career until all of a sudden they have. So it's kind of like you're a joke until you're not. I don't know if it's like a projection of like, well, it's just your hobby. Your passion can actually be something you could turn into a successful career. When in fact, yes, that's absolutely possible for each and every one of us.
Absolutely. You, Mama Bear, anybody, right? You can like...
Exactly.
And it doesn't really matter if people don't get it at first or if, doesn't light them up. It doesn't have to light them up. Seriously, if everybody said, okay, everybody has to be a runner, everybody has to be a quilter, everybody has to have a podcast, like absolutely not. It's us taking the time to do the things that light us up, because truly like that is what gives us the fulfillment, fills our cup so we can do all the other things as well, right? Because if we're only doing all the have to do's and not having any room for like our own self-fulfillment, that's when we get resentful. That's when we get crabby. That's when we feel exhausted. That's when we feel like, what about mom? Which I know I've felt that way here and there throughout my life. But like, I'm realizing when I feel what about mom, it's when I'm not taking the time for myself.
That's the life lesson here is it is very important that we take time for ourselves. It is not selfish to have your own pursuit. It allows you to be the best mom that you can be, to be a better mom, a better wife, a better friend. My dream doesn't need to be your dream or anybody else's dream, but the point in the lesson here is everyone does need to have a dream and a pursuit and a passion. And not only are they allowing themselves more peace and more joy, they're also teaching those around them to do the same.
Rhandi, thank you so much. I feel like that really did tie a good bow on kind of the thought that I was limping through. So something I want to touch on is you put on kind of your points. Shrinking yourself won't make you any faster. And I feel like, a lot of that is physically, when you're an athlete, you probably are like, okay, how do I get in tip-top shape? Not have any extra physical weight. But then I think of, what about me and my life? What is it shrinking myself? Whether it's like underfueling my body, or I'm downplaying my voice, or I'm minimizing my dreams, or, it's like you don't build strength by disappearing at all. It's hard to say, I'm going to take up space in a certain way, or I'm going to step out in the spotlight in a certain way. But like, how has that played out for you?
Yeah, ladies, take up space. We can take up space. And I think that it's so important. I love that you hit on this. Yes, there's a physical aspect of that, but there's also an emotional and a personal aspect of that goes beyond the physical. From an athlete perspective, and as many women in our 40s, whether or not you're out running, a lot of us are trying to be healthy. We're trying to be fit in our own way. And the word fit can mean many, many different things. But I like to say strong is the new skinny. Strong. And from an athlete perspective, oftentimes those who are the smallest, they may have, kind of back to your very first point, they may have success for a season or two because maybe they've cheated the system and maybe they're under fueling and they're lighter. So they've got some really great results. And then they end up with a cracked femur. The strongest, biggest bone in your body is cracked. And it's the same thing emotionally. We shrink ourselves long enough, we are going to break. We're going to crack. You break a bone, you put a crack in your sacred well-being, And that takes a long time to heal from. So we focus on being strong emotionally. We focus on being strong physically rather than being small and light and wafy, because the visual of being strong carries us so much further. And the strength that you develop as an athlete, the strength that you develop as a business owner, whatever your passion is, that strength that carries over into every aspect of our lives. And it's really unfortunate. Women, I love that you're focused on kind of this over 40 age group, because we grew up, we had parents from the 70s and 80s. We grew up in the 90s. You know, I was born in 1983, where it was all the rage to be skinny and fat free. And, you know, all those hilarious memes that are out there on TikTok and Instagram and that we all send each other that we're dying over there, they're real for a reason. Skinny had this like very strange value. Like, why are we putting someone on a pedestal because they're thin? Like, why is there this image that they've got a better life or a happier life or a more beautiful physique because they're thin? It's bizarre. And we've worked really hard for a couple of decades to move away from that. And I do feel we've made progress. But then all of a sudden there's like this trending thing called skinny talk. And, you know, we've got this kind of resurgence of the value of thinness. Let's talk about the value of strength, and let's talk about the value of health.
Absolutely, because thinness does not necessarily equal health
or happiness. Or it's so bizarre that as a society, we've made it some sort of pedestal.
Absolutely. Just knowing, okay, thank goodness things are slightly, you know, the needle is moving. It might be moving slow, and it might not be this linear pattern. It's kind of up and down, but like realizing, yes, the strong person, that's what you want to go for. I follow a lot of accounts on Instagram where it's like, you know, the doctors that specialize in perimenopause and, you know, the things that you need to do to carry us into the next phase of life, the oncoming decades. And like everything is strength. You need to be strong. You need to fuel well, and you need to do strength training, all of that. Because if you're just focusing on a number on a scale, that is not it. Hey guys, so if you loved this episode, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend. Whether the friend is a runner like Rhandi or they only run when they're being chased like me, they need to hear this one. And hey, if you take a second to rate the show and leave a review, I will dust off my running shoes and run a mile in your honor this week. Seriously, post a review, take a screenshot of it, send it to me, and I will run and I will post proof of me running. So go hit that share button, drop a review, and let's keep spreading the reminder to dream really freaking big, no matter your pace. You mentioned injuries. You don't want to have injuries. You want to be strong. One thing that you talked about is if you're constantly getting hurt as a runner, it's not bad luck. It's bad habits that are repeating themselves. When you're putting the stress on your body and you keep getting injured, you know, what's going on? I mean, yes, there is the bad luck. Like I know that you took a really bad fall recently, and so it cracked. Did it crack a rib? Is that what happened?
Yeah, I got a full non-displaced rib fracture. Yeah,
Things
so
like
sometimes luck is involved, right? I have been really blessed to be a fairly, knock on wood, injury-free runner. I would say definitely like way less than most. I've had very few running injuries, but yeah, you trip and fall when you're flying down a mountain on a dirt trail. And I catch myself. I didn't catch myself, landed, knocked the wind out of myself, found out I full fractured on my left side, and then bruised ribs on my left and right side. So yeah, there's going to be bad luck, and that's like an assumed risk when you're doing an extreme sport. But you have to start to notice patterns in your life. And if I am working with an athlete or a friend is coming to me for some mentorship or advice, and we notice patterns, and injury is a really obvious one, but, you know, we could use this analogy on many, many things. If there's a pattern and you're consistently getting injured and you're consistently having these red flags pop up, that means it's time to step back and say like, oh man, like I just have the worst luck. I'm always getting injured, and say, let's figure out what's causing this. Let's figure out the patterns and the habits in my life that are increasing my chances of this happening. So that's where we kind of have to be really honest with ourselves and do some self-evaluation, which is painful. It's super uncomfy, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
to
it's like because you think of
recognize.
injuries, I mean, they're not always physical, right? That's like emotional patterns that you might have yourself in, like burnout or perfectionism or overcoming, or, it's
Mhm.
like those are signals that there's something deeper that needs the attention, right?
Yeah.
I have friends that they've had the same issue going on with like relationships. They have romantic relationships that all kind of end and they all kind of, end in the same way. And, you kind of have to think like, what behaviors do we need to look at or what habits as like the common denominator? And like you said,
Yes.
it's not comfy to do. It's hard.
It's so hard. And that was the exact word that as you were, tying up this little bit, I thought, what's the common denominator? Like if you are constantly losing friendships, if you are constantly ending relationships or constantly getting injured, what's the common denominator? If you had one bad friendship breakup and it's never happened to you before, that's probably an isolated incident, right? So you can
Yeah.
figure out what's going on. But yeah, we all have in our own lives with our own injuries, quote, right? Using this as an umbrella term, we have to find out what those common denominators are. And sometimes when it gets real uncomfy, we have to be brave enough to say we might need to look outside of ourselves to get some help. I recently, like occasionally when I take on a new athlete, if they're constantly getting injured and we're breaking it down and we think, oh, wow, I think you're underfueling. Why are you underfueling? Well, I'm underfueling because I'm stressed and I don't have an appetite. That's outside of my realm, right? So then I'm like, hey, maybe you need to see a dietitian. Maybe you need to see a therapist, and obviously you have
Mhm.
to be really careful, like with, you don't just offer that advice up to someone. This is just someone's asking you like, hey coach, what should
Mhm.
I do next? I think that it's okay to say, we need help. I need a coach. I need a therapist. I need a doctor. I need to tell my best friend. I need to ask my mom. It's
Mhm.
okay to step outside of ourselves and get help. It takes a village. And so when we have those patterns and it's happening over and over again, we have to get uncomfy and we have to seek help.
So just to pivot a little bit, I kind of want to talk about some setbacks. We talked a little bit about your rib fracture, but
Mhm.
then also you've had some really hard situations, like some health issues. Can you paint a picture a little bit about like your DNF at, is it Leadville? It's like you trained for this 100-mile race.
So this was last summer. I was in the middle of this ultra running seat. It's called the Grand Slam. You do 4 back-to-back 100-mile races. They're the 4 original 100-mile races in the US. There's a lot of history to them. And so I was in the middle of this dream of mine that I've had for many, many years. And if you don't complete one of them, you don't complete the Grand Slam. It doesn't matter if you did the 2 before and the one after, you didn't make the cut. So I did my first 100-miler. It's called Old Dominion 100. I did that in June. Checked that off the box. Did my second 100-miler in July. So we've got Vermont 100. Check that off the box. And then my third, 3 of the 4s, I'm at Leadville 100, and I am on this high. I'm doing something that not very many ultra runners have done. Very few women. By this point, in the Grand Slam class, let's see, this was last summer, so this would be the class of 2024. There were 2 women left, me and one other girl, and then a bunch of dudes, a bunch of guys. That's it. Like we are very much underrepresented in the ultra running world, especially in the extreme side of it. Not only am I feeling pressure from myself, in this instance, I had asked my family for a lot of sacrifice. I don't race a ton for obvious reasons compared to other people at my level with my family obligations, because it does take a lot of time, energy, sometimes finances to make this all possible. So I've got the pressure of sponsors who have given me bibs, who are sponsoring me to do these things. I've got time away from my family. I have put a lot of heart and soul into this dream of mine. And now I'm 50% there, 2 down, 2 to go. And I had been having some pretty severe GI distress at the races, but I was able to fight through it and still finish strong, and have these 2 really strong races. So Leadville 100 is known as one of the hardest 100-milers in the world because the entire race is run above 10,000 feet. Leadville, Colorado sits at 10,000 feet. It's the highest city in America. And this entire course is up above 10,000 feet. And then you also do a 14,000, what is Hope Pass? I don't know, 13,000 feet. You do this really high mountain twice, right in a row. Anyways, I have since been diagnosed with this like anaphylactic response. It's an exercise induced allergy, and most people never know they have it because they never do things long enough.
Because nobody's running 100
nobody's
miles.
doing these crazy things. And so mine takes 13, 14, 15, 16 hours to present itself. So it happened again, and it happened at Leadville. And this time I was not able to pull myself out. It got so bad. I had, without being too graphic, sorry, viewers, trigger warning. We're going to talk about nausea and barf. I had thrown up 50, 60 times between probably mile 40 something and 50 something. I got to the aid station. They weren't going to let me leave. I convinced them to let me leave. I'm going back up the mountain. I started blacking out. I don't even remember chunks of it. It's not like a barf and rally. And some people were like, oh, just be tough, throw up, keep going. This is one where like, well, I throw up until I pass out and need an IV. There's a point at which I'm not going to put my life at risk. Obviously, this is not the most important thing, but this was different because it was a Grand Slam and I couldn't do the fourth race if I didn't do the third race. And I'm thinking I'm going to let so many people down. I'm all of a sudden, all those things, imposter syndrome, you're a fraud, like you're not as tough as you think you are. What were you thinking? So I am giving it everything I've got until they yank me off the course because I can't fail at this one, not this one, not this time. And also I have one other DNF and it was also at Leadville 100 a few years before that. And so I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Anyways, I ended up with a SAR escort down the mountain. SAR stands for search and rescue because I was not coherent. It took me a half an hour to walk a mile to put things in perspective, and I can run a sub 6-minute mile. So for some perspective, task is slow. So yeah, that ended in me not being able to complete the Grand Slam, me feeling like I let my sponsors down, my family down. So I was so embarrassed. Some things that heartbreak does, it strips your ego real quick. It strips you down to your bare bones and forces you to think about your why, forces you to think, I've got to take something good from this failure. Because if not, good grief, how do you come out of this? Mm-hmm. To come out of these like low moments, to me, I've got to be able to pull something good out of it. I have to. Like that's like a survival mechanism. First, your ego is stripped down. You're embarrassed. You have a low. You don't immediately need to go and think about the good stuff. You can sit in it. You're allowed to sit in the
you got to sit. You have to experience that part
you
of
do.
it. It's
and that's part of it. So I don't by any stretch of the means jump out happy and say, look at the gifts, look at the blessings. Like, that's not how it works. You have to sit in the discomfort. You need to mourn the loss. You need to address all of the emotions that you're feeling and say, like, it does suck. It's okay to say it sucks. But then what do you do after that? How do you pull yourself out of that and heal physically, emotionally? And that's kind of where, like, heartbreak isn't failure, it's feedback. And so then you start to listen to the feedback and you heal and you keep going.
What would happen if you were so devastated by this that you said, running career is over. I'm done. I'm never going to run again. Like, that would be the ultimate tragedy, right? If you would have let this take away everything that you had built, just a setback, even though this was a very significant setback and it was a heartbreaking setback. It, didn't take away your desire to ever try again.
No, it can't. At the end of the day, it can fuel you in your next chapter, in your next dreams. And I'm not ready to go back to Leadville. I like trying to makes me stutter.
Yeah.
I guess I'm still
bit of trauma. A little bit of
I'm
trauma
like,
there.
no, thank you. No, thank you. Moving on to other races. We're going to just set that one on the back burner for a while. Cause right now all I can do is cause I have 2 DNFs there, not one. And the second one, it's just, I want to just kind of middle finger Leadville still, and so the healing process is ongoing. And I think that's important to remember, but I'm not scared to run 100 miles again. And I'm not scared to race again. And we've been working very, very hard to figure out this strange gut diagnosis I have, which is still an ongoing process, which still is not fully understood. To be truthful, I'm still in the thick of figuring all of that out.
I feel like you've experienced other situations where things have not gone the way you planned. Was it last year or the year before that you were on Race to Survive? Lucy called it Hike to Die. Race to Survive.
Hike to Die. Oh, your son was on Hike to Die, a TV show. That's so
we were
cute.
gonna
Oh
watch
my
it.
gosh.
Lucy's like, "What's it called again, Mom? Hike to Die?" And I'm like, basically.
Oh, I could not love that anymore. Oh my goodness. So Race to Survive. I was on season 2 of Race to Survive in New Zealand. This is a show on USA. It was also, you can watch it on Amazon Prime. You can watch it on Peacock. But yeah, the premise of the show is there were 9 teams and we had to survive in the wilderness, getting to different checkpoints with only survival gear. We lived primitive, no tents, no food, only a compass and a map, and then deciding if you're going to go get a checkpoint and get some food, or if you're going to hurry and get to the next checkpoint so you don't get eliminated. And yeah, that experience of a lifetime, certainly life-changing in many, many ways, something I'll always cherish and something that I'm very grateful to have experienced. But yes, my teammate, Ashley, who is probably the toughest female athlete I've ever been blessed to work with, she got injured really bad. So that took us out in the middle of the race. I think we finished 5th or 6th. I can't remember, 6th, 5th. We raced for 20 something days, maybe 25, 26 days. You know, we were racing, for reference to those who probably don't know what the show is, we were racing for $500,000. We're both moms. We were the bad A mom team, you know? And so we're the only all-female team on the show, which is also a huge, obviously, like, disadvantage, but we weren't going to let that stop us. And when they asked us to go on the show, that was the premise, was go out there and show women that they can show up in these spaces, go out there and inspire women, because we both had a hard time making the decision to go on the show just because we would be gone away from our families. But that was kind of like, okay, let's do it for the ladies.
Yeah.
Let's make and create spaces and show that we can go out and do crazy things. So the show didn't end the way that we wanted it to, but very proud of how we represented ourselves, the way that we got along, the way that we dealt with challenges, the way we pivoted, our teamwork. I can say with my full chest, I'm very proud of how we worked through the show. Now, the show didn't necessarily show all of that. We were oftentimes
they have to distill it into a very
it's reality show. We were oftentimes in a much higher placement than it showed. And I don't really feel like, you got to see us do some of that baddie stuff, but we finished it. We made it to the next challenge, so we did it.
There were situations that you could not have anticipated at all. I mean, your teammate Ashley, you could not have anticipated her absolutely destroying her foot, right? Where you can't just say oh, muscle through it. Oh no. No. So you guys had all of the preparation, all of the skill, all of that done. But yeah, there's certain times where it's just okay, there is a unforeseen situation where, and you have to, I love that you're taking all of the good from it. You took the lessons, you're not stuck on the, oh, but we should have done better, or we should have had a different outcome, or whatever. I think it would be probably tempting to sit in that space, and maybe is sat in that space for 2 seconds, but realizing, hey, this is the bigger picture.
Yeah. Thank you for recognizing that, because we did do everything to prepare and to be prepared to conquer. And I think that's the lesson, is sometimes we can do it all right. Sometimes we can do everything right, and it doesn't mean we're going to get the result we want. That's life.
That's hard.
And that is hard. Yeah. And of course, the day before we got eliminated, and I think they do show this on camera for a bit, we both just sobbed, and we hadn't cried a lot. We just held each other and cried, because we knew that our special experience was coming to an end, because there were circumstances beyond our control that we had to accept. Like you said, you can't just, sometimes we can't muscle our way through or tough our way through a bad situation. Sometimes we are forced to call uncle, or sometimes we need to choose to call uncle,
So one thing that I wanted to talk about is inconsistency catches up. So you talk about, one perfect week of preparation won't erase weeks of skipping or half effort or overdoing it. Progress only shows when the work is steady. And so I want to see kind of where you're at with that, and how you've kind of seen that in your life. I mean, you got 5 kids, a coaching career, your own training. How do you stay consistent when life is chaotic?
Whoa, that's a loaded question. I think that one of the biggest ways that I do this, and the biggest little morsel of wisdom I could give, is consistency does not mean perfection. Consistency does not mean perfection. let me tell you this. And I think that people don't understand this. I very, very, very rarely check every box. Very rarely. Like I'm not nailing it 100%, 100%, 100%. But rather than be 40%, 100%, 30%, 100%, like get 8 out of 10 week by week by week by week. I set out my intentions for the week, and yeah, the laundry might pile up in the basement, but it's clean. It's there. Yes, we may have had a really great, healthy home cooked meal on Tuesday, and we may have done cereal on Wednesday. That's okay. It doesn't need to look perfect. It needs to look consistent, and it needs to look solid. And if you don't rush the process, consistency over a long period of time equals really incredible things.
Absolutely. Because if you look at, this week I only got 8 out of 10, but if you look at the month or the year, you will still see you did the things. It's hard to be consistent. Like, for example, I had a gym that I loved. I worked out at F45 and it was wonderful and fantastic. And they closed. And I still haven't been able to find my way back into that consistency. And I miss it because I joined a gym that I'm just like, about, it doesn't give me any type of a joy. But like realizing when I was in my heyday of actually working out and doing that thing, how good I felt. And I wasn't stressed that, I really meant to work out 5 times this week and I only worked out 3 or 4. It was, but if you look at the year and I worked out, 200 days or something like that, like that's huge. Just because you wanted to, you had this goal of 250 days a year or whatever, and you still went 200 days, and that's amazing, right?
That is amazing. Yes. And so the all or nothing mentality, toss it out the window. Yeah. Very few humans are that way. It doesn't serve us. What it does is it makes us diminish what we are doing. And like you just said, 200 days is amazing. It's not, I only did 200 out of 365. I did 200, and that's really fantastic.
Just because my goal was 250 or whatever, that doesn't mean that it's like, failure.
Yeah. It's like, well, the year before I never went to the gym. So I went 200 more times than I did before,
Exactly. I think that's like this year. This is not the workout year. I just need to get back on the wagon. It's hard, but I just need to like prioritize it. Another thing you said, it's not the gear. This is like one of your kind of your truth bombs of saying to a runner, it's not the gear. Your shoes and your watch are not what's holding you back. Or even like the keeping up with the Joneses mentality. It's not the stuff that matters. It's kind of the effort that you put in. Where do you see that? I mean, as a runner and then also just as a woman in this stage of life?
Yeah, as a runner, I'll use the example of super shoes. There are these new carbon plated shoes that if you run very, very efficiently in a marathon, for instance, you can run 2 to 5% faster. So somebody's doing the math and they're like, oh, okay, if I'm a 4-hour marathoner and I just get the $400 shoes, I can do the same effort and I can be a 3:55 marathoner. And, like if you can afford it and you want it, but the shoes aren't going to make the difference. The watch isn't going to make the difference for you and your podcast. The fancier microphone or the better platform isn't going to make the difference. It's the conversation. It's the connection. It's the work you're putting into it. And sometimes I do the same thing. Like we can get frozen because we don't have that yet. Like we don't have, I would love a podcast space. Oh, you're just in my master bedroom. I did make my bed and clear off my stuff that was right over here so you wouldn't see it. But rather than over obsess about this background that doesn't matter, instead, I took notes on what I wanted to share today, right? Yeah. And so don't get caught up on the little things that truly don't make a difference. And I also think on the keeping up with the Joneses, that's so easy to do. Look, I'm a mom in probably an upper middle class community with a lot of wealth, and it's very, very easy to get caught up in feeling like you need to look a certain way, act a certain way, do certain things, check certain boxes, but you have to just remain true to yourself and be authentic to you. And if those goals are outside of your desires, just let it go.
That's hard, but that is the wisdom speaking of just let it go. And the things that other people have, the things that you think that you need, that's not going to bring you the joy. When you think of, okay, these people who have been lucky enough to get to be 70, 80, 90 years old, these people who have so much life experience. I mean, when you talk to them, what really matters? What are the things that really have given you value in your life? It's not the stuff. It's not the things, it's the people, it's the experiences, it's the memories. I feel like when you talk to people, like I, talk to my grandma, and it's not like, oh, I'm so glad I had this car, or I'm so glad that I, had this surgery or whatever, or it's like, oh, I'm so glad that the Botox gave me so much joy. I mean, I can say Botox is right here every 6 months of my life. But you know what I mean? It's like, those are just the things. That's not going to move the needle of joy in your life at all. Just like the magic running shoes are not going to suddenly propel you into have this greatness, right?
Totally. Yeah. That's not going to propel us into, I finally figured it out. It's back to the basics, back to what's most important. Like you said, our relationships, our interpersonal connections, those are the joys and the things that we're going to take with us and make us truly happy.
To finish up, I do want to talk about that joy, like not losing the joy. I feel like being on the journey, sometimes you don't see the forest through the trees. You're so laser focused on whatever the goal is that you can't see all the amazing things around you as you're going. How have you hung on to the joy in your career, the joy in your own running career? Where have you been able to access that joy again, even after the hard times or the times where you've locked in and you maybe have kind of lost sight of the big picture?
I think one thing I'm going to start with, since we are discussing my running kind of career and path, I chose something that brings me joy. Where is your purpose aligned? The things that bring me the most joy in life are my family and my friends, the people that I love the most. And then I chose a hobby and a career that from the time I was a little girl, I just feel free and joy and weightless. And so part of it is like, I don't know how much credit I can give myself because I just really love it. I chose something I truly loved, right? But yes,
very
of course
wise.
You can get, yes. So to be fair, but of course you can get laser focused and you can lose the joy in the moments. You can lose the joy in the goals. I think with joy, it's really important to remember you don't like stumble upon the joy at the finish line. It's not like I reached my goal. I have joy. You experience joy in the process. And you have to remember that. It's not, I'll be happy when I finish X, Y, and Z. I'll be happy when I get this time, when I get this, checked off my list. While you're working and while you're in the mud and in the thick of it, you need to have joy. And I think we have to protect it. Because if we're not having joy in it, I mean, it's sacred. Joy is sacred. And so I think that we fiercely need to do whatever it takes to protect that. And that kind of goes back to everything we've been talking about. Step back, self-evaluate, be honest with yourself, check your ego. And then I think in the very worst of situations when you're struggling to find the joy, and this is cheesy, but there's a reason why this is said over and over again and why it's popped back into my mind, is go back to gratitude. Go back and start there. Start with what you are grateful for. Start with why you started this. And then remember that the joy doesn't come at the finish line. The joy comes in the process.
Absolutely. If you're waiting for the finish line and say, I'll be happy when, it's like, no, because then you'll get to the finish line and you'll be like, I don't feel the joy. I'm waiting for the joy. Where's the joy? And you're always chasing it. In kind of prepping for our talk, I love Mel Robbins. I don't know if you listen to Mel Robbins at all, but she had a performance and mindset coach. His name's Steve Magnus. Do you know?
I'm familiar with both of them.
Oh,
yes.
So
very much so.
During this conversation, Steve, he talked about what happens when we're so focused on a goal and we're too focused and everything else is kind of neglected. And he was talking about this study with 70,000 people. And it concluded that when we prioritize the external, which is the goal, the end, over the internal, it's universally detrimental to our well-being, because then you get to the goal and you're just like, what is this? Where am I?
Yeah, in the athlete world, we call it post-race depression.
Okay.
And it's we don't want that. That's not the point. That was never the point.
Realizing to do that joy check of okay, it's this whole journey. And I feel as for me, if I were to say, I'll be happy with this podcast when, when I have 100,000 listeners, every episode, that's a lot. But if I were to put this thing of okay, I'll feel the joy when, as the reward for reaching whatever goal, gosh, you're selling yourself short, right? Mm-hmm. So for you, personally, when do you realize that it's time for kind of a joy check? And what does that look like for you?
there are red flags, yellow flags that we need to be aware of. I think that if I'm constantly tired or I find myself grouchy or short with myself, my family, others, then it's time to step back and reevaluate and decide how I need to pivot in order to bring back the joy. And sometimes that means changing our goals. And I think that that's this weird misconception that changing our goals is some sort of failure. Changing our goals, look, everything is a work in progress. We're all doing the best we can. And pivots are not failures. Pivots are smart decisions in order to help you reach your potential.
Well, and when you pivot your goals and when you change your goals, it's like, it's because you have more evidence. You have more evidence down the line. If you would have said, you know, day one, like, you're not going to know the lessons, you're not going to know the challenges, you're not going to know the nuance of your journey. And I feel like if you refuse to pivot when needed, that's just digging your heels in and saying, oh, even with this extra information and this extra evidence, I'm just going to, you know, keep going through. Just to kind of close up, I feel like everything that we've talked about, it's like it has the same core lesson of like, you can't fake the fundamentals. And then when you build your foundation well, that's when you're able to really like dream really freaking big and do those things. And so I'm just so grateful to have you on. Everybody who comes on the podcast, I ask them the same final 4 questions at the end. So first, Rhandi, what's the first concert you went to?
Drum roll. New Kids on the Block.
That's a good one. How old were you? You're probably pretty young then.
I was super little and I have tickets. I think I was like 6 years old. I have a picture of me holding up the tickets on Christmas Day in a New Kids on the Block pajama nylon ones, like little like dress thing that we used to wear. I was obsessed with New Kids and KOTV. So yeah, first concert. Reno, Nevada. It was a dream come true.
What about your best concert?
Best concert. This is a hard one. I went back and forth between in college seeing No Doubt in concert just because they were the funnest. Like when Stefani was amazing on stage. So that one stands out to me. A Muse concert I went to with Graham just because it was a good night away from the kids. I think we had like 4 kids, 7 and under, and it was like a night away in Chicago, and we ate good food and we listened to good music. And I would say oftentimes for me, the best concerts are just the ones where you listen to really good live music from maybe a singer-songwriter, folksy band, and you're eating good food. So I don't even know the names of them, but even though there's a lot of really incredible, great, memorable artists, sometimes it's just like I just love live music. So sometimes some good live music with some tasty food and good company to me is the very best.
Who would you want to play you in a movie?
So was this who would I want to play me in a movie, or am I playing someone?
An actor who would be in the movie version of Rhandi's life. Who would play you?
Okay, I got it backwards.
Well, you can do it however you want.
No, I think I'll go with the same answer. I mean, I was just thinking of like an action-packed, tough baddie. I thought of Emily Blunt in Day After Tomorrow. Yes. But I was thinking I had to play her and what would be the funnest for me. Like I reversed the question. But so I'll go with that. Just the baddie. So yeah.
Yes. One who is like doing the stunts, able to do the things.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, no, I want to like go and do the stunts, you know?
Yeah,
so yeah.
For sure. So finally, final question. What have you found at 40?
I have found, here we go. 20 is the new 40. We are not old. We have our entire lives ahead of us. But we have the wisdom that 40 years has given us, right? And so your life isn't over at 40. We're not entering middle age and like on this downward trend. And I think that's like, wait, the Golden Girls were in their 40s, like in
insanity.
Like, what in the world is that nonsense? Like maybe we're entering into our golden age, but we are certainly not the Golden Girls. So I would just say at 40, I am learning to care a lot less. I have found that what people think does not matter. And I have found that I still have a lot of life to live and a lot of joy to live, seeing this next chapter for my children as they become little adults. And I am so excited about what the next 40 years are going to bring. And I say for all of us women entering this next chapter, the best is yet to come, and to kind of embrace life with that mentality. All of our shortcomings and all of the hard chapters and all of the beauty of raising our babies or creating a career wherever you are in your life, like we're going to just take all of that and just have the next best 40 years.
I love that because I'm completely on board. Like the best is yet to come. You think of, when you're a kid, you think, oh, 40 is so old. Or even if you look at pictures of like your great great grandparents when they were 40 and they look like they're 80, they look so old. But like not at all now. We have the life experience, we have the perspective, we have the knowledge, we have our health. Let's do it. Let's dream really freaking big.
Yeah.
Let's go. Rhandi, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Rhandi Run. My name is spelled weird, Rhandi. You type that into any search bar and I'll pop up. I have a website, rhandi.com. I have a newsletter. So those are some places you can find me.
Thank you so much, Rhandi. This was amazing. I loved being able to chat with you, hearing your wisdom, hearing your lessons and your experiences. You're wonderful.